May 16th, 2023, Jupiter entered Taurus with a bang. This triggered a massive T-square with Mars in very late Cancer, moving into early Leo on the 20th, and Pluto already at 0 degrees Aquarius. So there's a lot of emphasis on that T-square, and it was very important. It coincided with a new moon on the 19th, but this is a much longer transit. Jupiter actually stays in Taurus until May 25th, 2024. So I wanted to do a video that covers what we can expect during this time. Jupiter in Taurus is actually a pretty nice placement for Jupiter. I think we're going to enjoy a lot of this. There should be an increase in beauty and harmony. Taurus likes to know what are the nuts and bolts. How do we make this practical? So in order to really cover Jupiter in Taurus and what we may see between now and the end of May of 2024, I thought it might help to just take a look at Jupiter in Taurus natal placements, because that gives us a clue of kind of like what's the flavor. So a few things to keep in mind. Some famous people who have Jupiter in Taurus: Pablo Picasso, John Lennon, Audrey Hepburn, the fashion icon Vivienne Westwood, also Keanu Reeves, Adele, and JFK. So that's, look at, these are very different people, but what do they all have in common? That gives you a little bit of a clue of that Jupiter in Taurus flair. In my life, my husband has Jupiter in Taurus, and so I'm pretty familiar with this. A lot of times people that have Jupiter in Taurus, they're the reliable ones. They're the ones that are trustworthy. If they're in a sales type position, they're the kinds of people that they're not trying to rip off the old ladies and the grandmas. They're not trying to take advantage of people, unless they have something else in their chart that would make that happen. But in general, people that have Jupiter in Taurus are really, they're solid. They tend not to rise up to the top right away, but through slow and steady progress, it often happens that they end up at the top of their profession after a little while in it. They're not instant manifestors, but they're kind of solid, sturdy manifestors. And so when they put in the work, the effort pays off. In terms of the collective, how that could translate is any plans or intentions or long-standing goals that have been kind of like on the back burner, we may see those actually come into being in the next year or so. That could be an exciting development of Jupiter in Taurus, especially because Jupiter insists on truth. And so it's not so much like, oh, all these plans that are really bad for people and that are really nefarious. We're talking Taurus, which is solid, honest, hardworking, combined with Jupiter, which is expansive, but also very insistent on truth. Of the planets, Jupiter is so insistent on truth that can actually be kind of like pushy about it. But given all of the deception that's been happening in our world, I think we're going to find Jupiter in Taurus to be rather refreshing. Also, people that have natal Jupiter in Taurus, they tend to be quite artistic. They may not necessarily be artists, although a lot of them are, but what you'll find is that whatever they do in life, they tend to do in a pretty aesthetically pleasing way. So using my husband as an example, his third career since I've known him is he does HVAC repair, so heating and cooling repair. And what his customers notice is that he's that solid kind of person, but also his teammates, his other people that he works with, they can always tell when he's been in a house, because everything is just, it has like this Euro chic look to it, where he's not just like fixing your furnace or your air conditioner, he's making it look really nice. And that's just how he is. And that's how a lot of people with Jupiter in Taurus are. They'll bring that touch of grace and beauty into whatever they do, and it kind of becomes their trademark. So other things that people with Jupiter in Taurus can be really good at, farming, permaculture, wealth management, also kind of the philosophy of wealth. So with Jupiter moving into Taurus, this is a good time to kind of break out those old abundance books like Joseph Murphy or Napoleon Hill, or even Law of Attraction stuff like Abraham Hicks. All of that, it's like this philosophy, this bigger idea of wealth, but then in Taurus, how do you bring that down to the tangible earthly reality? So we're going to find more emphasis on those kinds of things. The only real negative for Jupiter in Taurus, I guess there's kind of two. One is could lead to a tendency of hoarding. A lot of times people that have Jupiter in Taurus, they want more. Like one is none. You want to have duplicates of what you think you might possibly need. One of my husband's favorite expressions is better to have and not need than to need and not have. So this time period with Jupiter in Taurus, it could be a good time for preparedness, especially because the other negative to Jupiter in Taurus that we could see is increased inflation. Jupiter expands everything, and so we could see kind of higher and higher prices. The nice thing, especially for people who have Jupiter in Taurus in their natal chart, is that even as inflation happens, a lot of times your income also rises, and so you're not as affected by it. There's generally an optimistic feeling with Jupiter in Taurus and finances. Early on, so for 2023, we're probably not going to see too much volatility. I mean, we already are because there's other things going on. But in terms of the Jupiter and Taurus influence, where I would suggest that there might be more volatility would be next year, especially around April 20th, 2024, when Jupiter conjuncts Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus is the liberator, the rebel, and Jupiter is kind of like, yeah, let's make it even bigger. And so we could see extra volatility at that time, could see really high risk taking. But if it's inspired, if it's inspired by meditation or deep inner work, or really kind of bringing some of those philosophical out there ideas down into earthly reality, April of next year, 2024, could end up really bringing some radical changes in the financial system that actually do benefit people, especially if you've kind of positioned yourself well during this lead up to that time. For some other clues in terms of what to expect with Jupiter in Taurus, I'm just going to go over other times that Jupiter has been in Taurus recently. So June 2011 to June 2012, take a look at what was happening then. I know in 2012, a lot of people were really worried about what's going to happen in December. There was some of that anxiety, but there was also a really expansive awakening that was occurring, especially during 2012. So we may see some more of that happening, some echoes of 2012 and like the hope that was also paralleling the dread. With Jupiter, we get more hope happening. Also, July to October of 1999 and December 1988 to March 1989. If you were born during those time ranges, then you probably have Jupiter in Taurus. Always check your chart because some people are on the cusps. But these are recent examples of Jupiter in Taurus, and so they can give us a little clue of the flavors that we may experience going forward for the next year or so. Also, you're going to want to have a look at what house is in Taurus in your natal chart, because that's going to also tell you where Jupiter is going to be activating things. And in general, as I mentioned before, Jupiter is considered the great benefic, really generally a positive influence. The main thing you have to worry about with Jupiter is excess confidence, excess hoarding. But Jupiter is also generous. And so a lot of times if that hoarding instinct kicks in with the Taurus, With Jupiter, it's also kind of like, oh, well, I have enough to spare and enough to share. It's kind of like I prepared for this time and now I'm able to share more with other people. So these are just some things to consider. A couple other things that I wanted to bring up. So Taurus, earth sign, kind of like, I would say the earthiest of the earth signs. And with Jupiter and that connection to philosophy, we're kind of talking about like lapis lazuli and like the philosopher's stone. Really, any kind of crystal, you're gonna get extra benefits working with them. So if you're someone that just loves crystals and you feel like, oh my gosh, I buy too many crystals, you know what, you can blame it on Jupiter in Taurus for the next year or so and really get into them. So obsidian, another excellent stone to work with at this time, amethyst, the purples, the higher energy like the third eye chakra, the crown chakra, blue lace agate, another one. These are some of the more unusual ones, but really potent. Also calcite crystal. So this is a blue calcite, but calcite also comes in other colors like green calcite or gold or yellow calcite. So, I mean, these are, you don't have to work with crystals, but if you like to work with crystals, especially if you like making crystal grids or using crystals as part of your intentions or as part of your magic, this is a really potent year to do that. And if you don't know much about crystals, your studies, because Jupiter is like higher education, your studies about that topic will increase. You'll get more progress for your effort. Also, similarly, I've mentioned before, gardening, permaculture, just with some of the potential volatility in our markets and our world right now, learning how to garden is actually really practical advice, but it can also bring a lot more beauty into your life. And so we're talking edible landscaping, things that not only are providing for you, but are providing for you in a beautiful, harmonious way. I do want to mention some key dates that are coming up. So June 1st, as I said, the North Node and Jupiter will conjunct right at 3+ Taurus. That's a big deal for the next very long while. We're kind of like setting our intention for bringing that beautiful new Earth into the tangible earthy reality. But there's a few other transits that are quite important. And then on June 19th of this year, Jupiter and Saturn exactly sextile. So Jupiter in Taurus sextile Saturn in Pisces. That's another just amazing day to like bring that dreamy, beautiful world. Like, what's the most beautiful world that you can imagine? And what tangible steps could you take on that day in order to bring things into being? It's going to be extra potent because we're approaching the time of the solstice, either summer solstice in the northern hemisphere or winter solstice down under. But that energy, it thins the veil. And with Saturn and Jupiter in that harmonious sextile, it's kind of subtle but potent if you decide to work it. Also, April 20th of 2024, I mentioned Jupiter conjuncts Uranus at 20 degrees Taurus. So if you've got anything around, say, 15 degrees to 25 degrees of any fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, that's like, woo, big opportunity day for you, but also for the collective because that's a collective transit. And then on May 23rd of 2024, so just a little over a year from now, just 2 days before Jupiter leaves Taurus, it has a dreamy conjunction with Venus in Taurus. I talked about this a lot more in my May 19th, 2023 video because the same degree range is triggered there. That conjunction between Jupiter and Venus next year and the new moon that we just had on May 19th of 2023, they're within minutes of each other. And to me, it's like a nice omen of Jupiter in Taurus. So kind of starts out with a bang and we get all that tension with the T-square, but it finishes up with this dreamy, wonderful Jupiter conjunct Venus in Taurus before Jupiter makes his big move into Gemini. overall, I feel like this could be a really positive time. And so just to prepare yourself for greatness, set yourself up. Jupiter wants to be bold. Jupiter wants to be big. And with the opportunities that are coming in Taurus, yes, it's going to take some work. It's not just going to manifest out of thin air, but there is kind of extra luck. There's extra energy supporting the changes that need to occur. And despite whatever intensities are occurring with other transits this year, we've got this kind of nice background energy all through the next year. The retrograde is from September to December of this year. That's just going to intensify our opportunities, give us a chance to review what we've already experienced. So a really positive opportunity. That's why I wanted to make this video, and I wish you all a wonderful day. Take care.